Hi everyone, Too Fast, Too Furious here with Rhyme Signatures, the nerdiest music review this side of reminding you kids that substituting numbers for letters or words is neither big nor clever. And today we're going to be doing a review of the new Hypno5e album, Sheol. France really are knocking things out of the park this year. After I had a thoroughly good time with Clones meanwhile, I have been subsequently one-two'd by the record from the interestingly named Hypno5e, or rather Hypnos as one imagines it's actually meant to be pronounced, although the possibility that it may well be Hypno5e is not entirely without merits given the Gallic roots of the band. Curious naming conventions aside, Hypnos have been one of those bands who I've had a passing, almost tertiary interest in for many a year now. I enjoyed their 2018 record Alba les Ombres Errantes quite a lot. 2019's A Distant Dark Source left me satisfied, and I distinctly remember my discovery of the band in 2016 with Shores of the Abstract line rather fondly. But they were never a band who I spent a great deal of time or attention on. They were very much in the camp of, this is pretty good, but I'd listen to each new release maybe a couple of times and then only revisit once or twice a year after that. The recipe for success was written all over the music. It consists fundamentally of a winning formula for me. It just lacked a certain, a grip, a hook, a reason for me to keep returning to them. Thankfully, I feel that this bugbear has been banished with the band's 6th studio record, Sheol. The complete package has finally been delivered to my home address, full postage paid, no customs and excise duty remaining, and I have unwrapped what can only be described as an early frontrunner for my album of the year. This is a stunning, remarkable and intoxicating experiment of fearless genre blending, self-indulgence, monstrous riffing and thick, blackened atmospherics that is pulled off with elegance and aplomb. Hypnos have taken a running leap with Sheol and have nailed the landing better than I ever could have hoped for. But who are Hypnos? I imagine my target audience will likely have some passing knowledge of these French fancies, but for anyone on the fence I will do my best to sum up their sound in as concise a manner as I can. Ostensibly an avant-garde metal band, Hypnos blend the best parts of black metal, post-metal, atmospheric rock, film score and cinematic soundscapes, all while incorporating multilingual spoken word sampling to bulk out the ethereal moods found within. It's grandiose, self-indulgent, complex and multi-layered stuff that gives very little back to the listener on a surface level. But if you manage to get beneath the thick outer hide, you'll be rewarded with music that gives back tenfold what you put into it. Hypnos have long been a band that write the music that they want to write first, accessibility be damned, and this is of course both their greatest strength and biggest weakness. They are not a band that are easy to appreciate from a casual listen, but if you've got the patience for music that is both structurally unusual and sonically dense, then you're likely to find a new favourite band that will scratch an itch that you never knew you had. So let's talk about Sheol. Let's talk about why this record has worked so well for me, and how it's managed to get me into this band in a big way. The structure of the record is not unfamiliar to a prog fan, consisting of 8 tracks overall, but 2 of those form effectively short interludes or introductions to larger songs that precede them. So, for argument's sake, let's say there are 6 songs here on a record that's 63 minutes long. This means one thing: long songs that aren't afraid to let their ideas breathe, to let them formulate and appreciate over the course of the music. This is nothing new for fans of prog music, or post-music for that matter, and it's really the post-metal here that shines on Sheol. It comes as no surprise to me that this record feels thematically and musically similar to German outfit The Ocean, and given that Hypnos have been signed to Pelagic Records now for a number of albums, this doesn't feel entirely accidental. The record kicks off with the 2-part title track, and we're greeted by an immediately dark and threatening feeling. The bass is heavy, oppressive and dank, but it doesn't last for long as introspective acoustic guitars take the lead very shortly into the album, before thick, spoken word Spanish plays out underneath the music, forming and establishing one of the band's signature party tricks early on. The transition of this spoken word to the powerful, guttural, djenting riff that follows is like being hit in the face by hurricane-force winds as it settles this as being an astonishing opening track. Raspy vocals come in strong before the storm settles back down, bringing back the spoken word, acoustic guitars and clean vocals. It's this yo-yoing of styles and moods that makes Sheol such a dynamic listen. No one element of their sound takes preference over the other. There's always a peak or a valley coming up, and while this tonal whiplash may not be to everyone's tastes, I personally feel that it's handled extremely well and manages to keep the record from ever feeling stale or tedious. The multilingual aspects of Hypno5e are honestly one of my favourite parts of their sound, and the title track from Sheol demonstrates this admirably. Be it in French, Spanish or English, the vocals and spoken word sampling always fits the mood of the music, and every linguistic choice feels deliberate, measured and appropriate. The title track closes out with a violent assault of squealing Gojira-esque riffing over some furiously aggressive drum fills, and I feel like I've just been battered about the head by a band who unlocked the secret to their fullest potential. Bone Dust follows up this musical assault, starting off calmly, filling things out with the band's more cinematic chops with some gorgeous string work and kind of Nine Inch Nails-y styled electronic sounds undercutting these mournful, clean vocals. It's absolutely chilling and further cements just how much variety the band is bringing to the table. The song continues on the formula established earlier with plenty of ups and downs, thematic and musical shifting, and no shortage of heart-stopping technicality on offer. At this point though, I start to wonder if this is how the rest of the album's gonna go, but thankfully no. Hypno5e still have plenty of tricks up their sleeves that keep the sound of Sheol from ever feeling stale or repetitive. Fourth track, Talker Part 1 Another, serves as a fantastic mid-record break. Taking some time out from the aggression and darkness of the earlier tracks, this serves itself up as a much more mellow, more introspective and restrained offering from the band. It's a primarily acoustic journey that really showcases the vocal talent of the band, as well as serving as a signal flare to any doubters that these guys really know how to compose some of the most effective and atmospheric music out there today. This track is not too dissimilar to Damnation-era Opeth, but with a more of a cinematic vibe to the overall tone, and I'm really just a big fan of this track. What comes after, though, is where Sheol really shines. Some albums are a little front-loaded with the majority of their best ideas and motifs being burnt up in the first 3 or 4 songs. Not so much here. Sheol is definitely backloaded, with the sequence of Lava from the Sky, The Dreamer of His Dream, and the closing 2-parter Slow Steams of Darkness being some of my absolute favourite post-metal I've heard since the Ocean's landmark record Pelagial in 2013. The plaintive, heartbreaking, delicate vocals drifting out over the top of a ticking clock in Lava from the Sky paints an incredibly bleak but beautiful portrait of the moods and themes the band has embraced on Sheol. It's a moment of realisation for me at just how good I'm finding this album, and just how much it's wormed its way into my psyche. It's one of those tracks where I have a slow motion epiphany about everything that's led up to this track, as it manages to somehow make the preceding tracks sound even better somehow. It's hard to explain the feeling, but it's like the final highlighting stages of a beautiful Italian fresco or something. This song is excellent in its own right, but it's how it makes the rest of the album look in context that is truly its greatest strength. The final double whammy of The Dreamer and His Dream and Slow Steams of Darkness make up a significant chunk of the album's runtime, clocking in at around 27 minutes out of the total of 63, further evidencing my backloaded comments from earlier. And it really does feel like the band have been saving their best until last. They truly do break out every possible trick in the book here. Hypno5e are often described as being cinematic in their approach to music, and this has rarely felt more accurate until the final stretch here. The instrumentation becomes broader and more orchestral in places, and the band isn't afraid to let things breathe, to let notes hang and be drawn out for effect. There's almost a certain dystopian kind of Disco Elysium feeling to the intro of The Dreamer and His Dream. Something about the brasswork feels distinctly Cold War-era Eastern Bloc and serves as an incredible scene setter. The aggressive guitars and djenting of the early moments of Sheol feel 100 miles away as they draw focus onto the black and white cinematic scope and sensation that they are often known for, and it is nothing short of glorious. Hypno5e are still ultimately a metal band though, and the guitars do come back strong, but it never feels like you're listening to a heavy metal band or a tenor penny metalcore outfit. This music is so distinctly them. It's delightful, unique, and marks them out as a band that hide their influences remarkably well, as this kind of record is honestly so uncommon in the modern progressive metal landscape. To be able to handle the individual elements so deftly and blend the chalk and cheese of their identifiable hallmarks with complete fluency is a rare skill, and it makes Sheol such a bold, dynamic, and thrilling listening from start to finish every time I hit play. So, what else can I say about Hypno5e's Sheol? This is a perfect example of a record that I had mid-tier expectations for, but was left utterly gobsmacked by the whole experience. Unlike some bands where I only have a fleeting knowledge of what to expect going into them, I was fully aware of what Hypno5e do, what they sound like, and what was going to happen over the course of the album. What I was not expecting, though, was for this to skyrocket to the top of the my always in progress top 10 records list for 2023 so far. It is difficult to imagine a better record to help people break into post-metal with, given the intensity and dynamic seesawing of styles across individual tracks and the album overall. There's rarely a musical run that lasts for too long, or doesn't get blindsided by a thematic switchover before it becomes overwhelming. The growls and yells are too much? Don't worry, there's some poetic, heartfelt lyricism coming up. Genty riffs becoming overbearing? No problem, as a delicate acoustic guitar solo with soaring violins just around the bend. This is hands down one of the most engaging and consistently entertaining records I've heard this year so far, and the sheer depth of complexity to the instrumentation keeps me coming back, but it's the accessibility of the softer passages that keep it such an easy album to listen to from start to finish without ever feeling burnt out or exhausted. I cannot possibly recommend enough that you grab a physical copy of this record, and that comes in no small part due thanks to the absolutely gorgeous cover art, which I would 100% have framed and on display in my house somewhere. This is just incredible stuff from a band that have finally cracked me and made me realise just how talented they truly are. This, guys, is all, of course, just my opinion, as you know, so if you have listened to this one, tell me what you thought about it in the comments down below. If you've anything you've listened to this year that you think I should check out, please do let me know about it. I'd love to give it a listen. If you like this video, please do share it with anyone else who you think might enjoy it. Please do consider subscribing for some more content as well. And if you really like what I do, please do consider clicking my Ko-fi link in the description below to help support the channel. Until next time, guys, keep your rhyme signatures odd.